it's a long time ago, I don't see this film. So a long time ago, it's not true. I saw it maybe 7 years ago when they pay homage to one of the actors that died, the old one. And I don't know, it's quite avant-garde, you know. When I saw it, a lot of decisions of the edit, some decisions about the darkness of the images, the way I push the contemplation aspect of the film, you know, and even radical decisions on the edit. I was quite surprised. In fact, you know, it looked like some parts of a video art experiment. But at the same time, as there was I don't know, a human side or a human point of view, linked a little bit with the story that it's inspired, that is the Don Quixote book, but it's the friendship between the two, you know, the two main characters. That it's a very nice thing because it's a friendship that also started on the screen with the two main actors, and that evolved and keep on during all my films until the one died. So I think it's very, I don't know, it's moving for me in that sense, that the friendship that was created on the screen, because the two guys, they didn't know each other. They are from the same village, but you know, maybe the old one knew a little bit the father of the other one, but you know, superficially. And you know, then suddenly something there was growing on the screen and outside the screen, and I see the evolution, or I show and I shoot the evolution of all this friendship until the very last moment, some months before dying, for a film I did, a 12-hour film for the Venice Biennale of Art in 2015 or 16, I don't remember, where they got married, the two main characters, and they had a son, they adopted a son and a kid. So, and even in a previous film I did in 2010, it was a commission from a museum in these letters from between filmmakers. They already, you know, he's already the fat one asking him to marry the other one. So, you know, then they did another film that we will see afterwards, or now it's starting, I think, in some minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I don't know. For me, the most moving part is this one, and also I like the idea that I started my career a little bit like Don Quixote. You know the story of Don Quixote? That is that he's crazy or he's mad about books of chivalry, and he picks up, you know, some tools he has, you know, next to him, and he, how to say, he invests himself, you know, he self-invests himself as a chevalier.
A knight.
Yeah, a knight. No, but it's himself who decides that he will be a knight, just to copy and compare, you know, to imitate what he's reading in the books that you know, makes him crazy. And you know, somehow I think that as the first film it's very current, because it was the same as I did here, because I pick up something that was next to me, little tools, and little tools at that time meant digital technology, little cameras with mini DV. I pick up, you know, some friends, some people around, and I self-invest myself as a filmmaker, as a director. So it's quite beautiful, this parallelism. And okay, I started to try to find some interesting way of, you know, adapting the book, because we were at the beginning of digital, so we couldn't make a normal film. We were all tired of normal cinema. So, you know, and these little cameras allow you to really have more freedom, and also in the conceptual side. So I decided to say, well, why don't I, you know, focus on what is in between the chapters. When it's in the book, it's simply not written, because the book is so beautiful, and especially because of the language that Cervantes uses. You know, that it's a monument of Spanish language, and also it's a very idealistic way of using language, the Spanish language. So, but how can we match this with images? We can. You know, there is no direct translation of the beauty of this language to images. So let's focus on it, what is not written in the book, what is between the chapters. Or even a more sophisticated idea that he said, imagine that Cervantes, you know, inspired by some people he met around, real people he met in his life, and with these two real people he once imagined, we can imagine, found on the street or wherever, he created a story. You know, the two real guys were these ones. You know, so with these two ideas, I started to, the idea of adaptation of this book. Well, it was quite original at that time, because at the beginning of digital, the idea of using digital was always linked to, I don't know, contemporary stories or love stories in urban context, you know, cities, couple problems, you know, interiors like on the Casavets style or something like that. Nobody thought that with super little cameras you are able to make adaptation of a, you know, an old book and a little bit boring book or classic book that it's like Don Quixote. But at that time, you know, me and some other people all around the world show that, you know, little cameras or little digital cameras could be useful for whatever you wanted. You know, there was no specific use or choice to use these cameras. So, and this for the reason a little bit, and then okay, with this little camera you blow up to 35, here obviously is DCP, but okay, it's quite good image. Yeah, and you have a very strange image that it's even more original than the standard image we have nowadays in most of the films. Because of the blow up and using mini DV was like 560 definition, so it was nothing. I mean, but I don't know, who cares? Who cares there is no definition? And it's a little bit the idea that the film is always going ahead, like Don Quixote. You know, Don Quixote, he has a lot of obstacles, a lot of problems in the book, a lot of, you know, disgrace, adventures, but he always keeps on ahead, you know. And the film, it's a little bit like this, the idea that he never stops. And okay, maybe it's long, maybe it's dark, whatever. The film keeps on as the main character until, you know, the end. And they are somehow, you know, you as a spectator, you found some parts of the book. Because if you know the book a little bit, you know, one moment you see another knight there in the olive trees, in the middle, then you see at the end that he's inside a cage, then you see a chain of slaves very far, you know, you see, it's very beautiful because it's the second part of the book, you know, that they are walking, and somebody talks to them about the first part of the book. So they are the real characters that somebody is talking, that there is a written story about them. So, you know, it's a little bit this idea, the same idea, that they are walking through their own book here in the film, encountering or, you know, having the suggestion that maybe, you know, some of these adventures are there and they are really walking, you don't know exactly if as spectators of their own book or if really a protagonist or really, you know, main characters of it. So in the film plays a little bit this, and okay, I thought that was some kind of fortunate because all the elements and specifically the, I don't know, the physical combination of both, you know. There is some kind of tenderness in both actors, especially you see in the scene of the river and some of the scenes, but you know, you feel that there is, as in all my films, the idea of, you know, shooting the film as a performance, that something is growing up in real time in front of your eyes. And this idea that there is no representation almost, that everything, you know, has to experience, is happening now. I mean, it's happening for the first time in front of your eyes, you know, and there is nobody think about it, nobody, you know, thought that could be, you know, what could be these images before. So they just appear like in a spontaneous way, as it's spontaneous both actors, especially the fat one, you know, that it's very photogenic in some sense, because whatever he does, you will never stop looking at him. It's has a strange charisma at the level of visuals, and that this has very, then with time I understood, you know, it has more rational explanations, you know, the source of his charisma or his photogenia in a wider sense. But I don't know, it's the beginning of everything, and the beginning of possibilities of cinema. Then I broke, you know, what has in common my last film with this one, you know, almost nothing. I mean, but somehow the spirit and the innocence in the idea of working, because of course this is my obsession. We talk in the master class a little bit about this, how to keep the innocence ongoing after I don't know how many films, how many sophisticated threads dealing with factors, with mise-en-scène, with I don't know, visuals, with post-production. Now I do a lot of post-production, you know, most of my shots are composed by different shots, and you know, it's a very, you would say that it's almost a super, I don't know, refined on visuals, and there is no soul inside. That's not control, because it's totally out of control, but you know, there is a really deep analysis on, you know, the meaning of, not the meaning, but the sensations, you know, of every image, and it's very, especially on the edit, you know, it's really calculated. But okay, here I think that we see that there is some even outrageous decisions on the edit. So my idea of provoking a little bit physical sensations on the spectator due to darkness, due to the use of time, use of space also, due to, you know, things that are a little bit abstract sometimes, are a little bit, that are not, you know, usually they don't use film this kind of strategies. But okay, I think somehow it, the last film is faithful to this spirit. That's enough.
Maybe we should open up any questions from the audience. We can't really see you. Right in the back.
Yeah. I have two questions, is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the first one is, how much of the film was, maybe you answered some of this already, how much of it was scripted and how much was improvised? And also, if you could tell us a little bit about the man who plays Sancho, Luis,
Yes.
your friend, like how did you meet him, how did he become like your go-to actor? Because he definitely has that like star power, like you said.
Yeah. Script, you know, I like to write the script, in fact. It's something, you know, that gives me some pleasure. And I do it alone, and it's like a challenge against myself. And so I try to do my best. But I never think that the script will be more or less useful for the final film. You know, of course, production people need it as a tool and to prepare things for every day, and it's a production, you know, schedule. But we have the setup, we have the places, we have the locations, we have more or less the actors. Here there is very few actors. In general, in last films there is more actors, and I like to have all the actors ready, and then I decide every day which actors will play, who will, you know, I follow intuition in that sense. And when I am inside this frame that is every day, more or less the setup where we decided we will shoot in that location, no? then there it's completely free. I mean, I follow a little bit my intuition, and I like to work with variation, always here with 3 cameras. This was from the very beginning with my methodology, with the zoom lenses, you know, not stopping, very long shots, non-communication with actors, almost barely no communication with technicians. So really it's the idea of a performance I explained before. I think it's quite true. I mean, it's quite close to reality, because you know, there is not a clear goal, there is not a clear direction where we go. Of course, I knew that you know, there was some kind of win-win situation, because the actors were so good and they match so well physically and on the attitude that, I don't know, as Warhol said, the film can be done alone. You don't even need director, you know, it will always work. But then, okay, I try to apply, you know, to find moments, to find the magic of every moment. I try to, you know, get the actors tired, wait until, you know, nice things happen. And this always goes through variations. I never check any image of my films before the end of the shooting. I never check any, I never look at the monitor. We don't have monitor, we don't have combo. And I never check the frame, so I communicate by scenes with the camera operator. So it's a little bit about creating an atmosphere in front of the camera that at the end will give something. Will be transformed into something that will be revealed afterwards, probably in the edit, but that will be interesting, that will contain some interesting elements. And okay, then it's variations over variations over variations of going on circles of the same subject, the same ideas, then to be able to choose the best moments at the end. For this reason, I already here. I didn't shoot a lot in this film compared with the last one. I don't remember exactly, but here I think we were around 120 hours of total footage. If we compare it with the 540 I have in the last film, and it's also 3 cameras. And it's the same. Here was very short. Was 12 days of shooting, or 11 days of shooting. So the last one is the double. It's 25 days. But the process it's quite similar. And then yes, I knew the guy. You know, I knew the guy from my village. He was working in a disco bar, and I knew, and also as a, you know, the building sector, you know, building houses, and I knew that he was good. And in fact, it's what I said when I put them together. You know, when we met for the first time, we were preparing the film or deciding to shoot it. I realized that it was. I knew he was very good. He was very photogenic, because it's what I said. Even in the disco bar, you never got tired of looking at him. The way he do the things, the way he looks, he's like a wild animal. You know, there is a beautiful description of surrealist. I think it's Dali or André Breton. I don't remember. I think it's Dali. who describes, you know, one of the silent stars of the beginning of cinema. It's Harry Langdon. It has a similar physical shape than this one. And he describes it as a wild animal or as a flower, you know. Something moves on his body and he doesn't know it.
Yeah.
You know,
More like
everything
the flies.
yeah, like, you know, that the body goes ahead, the thinking.
Yeah.
You know, so, and all the gestures, and for this reason it's somehow fascinating because you can never anticipate. And there is always a mystery because you can never anticipate on the eyes what he will do, what he's thinking, you know, because it goes after, it goes beyond, you know, it goes after and it's really, really a wild animal. So this, and then also the idea that, because I wanted to have fun, it was the beginning, the idea that digital was useful to have fun, to make a shooting that was funny. So the idea that, I don't know, we don't want to shoot the beginning or the ending of any scene, because it's boring, because if it's the beginning or it's the ending, you are already putting a meaning on it, because you shoot the beginning means that somebody will get in or somebody will, I don't know, will do something that it's already, you know, marked. It's already that it has a specific use. It's the beginning of something. Then if you don't want to shoot nor the beginnings nor the endings of the scenes, it's much more interesting because you start in the middle of, you don't exactly know what, because it has no start. So the edit is quite avant-garde somehow because it always starts in the middle of something you don't understand. And I don't know, this, you know, as I rejected from the very beginning, this was Jean Duchet, a French critic, unfortunately he died some years ago, that he described my cinema as he said that it was, nice definition, it was based in the dramaturgy of presence, not the dramaturgy of action. In general, you know, things happen and are connecting, and this is the reason why one image or one scene goes after or before another one. But here, he said that in my cinema there was no need of create a dramaturgy of action because it was the sole presence of the actors that with some reverberations create a natural dramaturgy because still a little bit of these qualities of innocence and qualities of mystery they do have inside and the way they perform, etc. So, and I think some of this spirit also we can found it in the last film, where it's an extremely sophisticated way. On the psychological level it became much more complex. But the idea that it's the presence of the main character in Pacific fiction that creates a natural dramaturgy, and that it goes parallel with a normal or theoretically normal dramaturgy, that it's the plot about the nuclear or, you know, the ambitions of the gal or whatever. But in the middle, in fact, what it really creates, the dramaturgy of the film is being close to him and, you know, the reverberation of his attitude or the spreading of his movements. You know? And okay, then it becomes much more sophisticated than this. But okay, the simple side of here, I think it's what it makes moving and more human from one certain point of view.
It's interesting because like yesterday at the master class, we were kind of talking about, I don't even know if this is working. We were talking about like realism and that being, you know, not as inspiring to you, but there is a distinction between what's real and what's natural. And, you know, do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, yeah, that is I don't know, I like this idea of naturalism or even extreme naturalism that goes in a certain sophisticated context goes towards hyperrealism. That it's the case of Magimel in the last film, the way he performs, you know, it's even more real than reality. Because it's, you know, sometimes I still watch the film and, you know, there is some moment, some sentence, some reactions that me as an editor or as a viewer of the film, as a director also, I cannot even understand how he does it. How he can create, you know, the sensation of some moments that it's impossible that this guy, inside the context or inside the mental frame of knowing that he's representing a character in the middle of a shooting with camera shooting at him, can create something, can say that sentence in such a violent way. For me, it's not even nowadays, there are some moments that I don't believe, it's impossible. I think that it has to be a stolen images, you know, that there should be a hidden camera somewhere, and simply he was not performing for any camera, and simply there was some stolen images without him knowing, and for this reason it has this violent, hyper-realistic touch. But of course I know it's not true because he was in front of me all the time. So, I don't know, I think that this extreme, that comes this naturalism, still some humanism approach is still there, and maybe it's the more adequate word, no? The natural approach or naturalistic approach, but then it transformed to hyper-realistic, that it's more cold, because it's more sophisticated, and everything, the mise en scène and everything, it becomes more, really more under, you know, analytic treatment on the edit, and then maybe hyper-realistic approach, but it's a consequence.
Yeah.
I think it's evolution of using the same system, applying maybe to some kind of factors, then applying to some kind of other kind of factors, that it's a professional, extremely gifted professional actor, but at the same time it's also mixed in most of the scenes with the same actor than here. You know, the fat guy, of course, the guy doesn't speak French fluently, so he cannot interact in a proper way with Magimel in the Pacifiction film. But his attitude is a little bit similar than what we see here with Don Quixote, because here it's the lack of experience as an actor and the shyness of the character, or the shyness of the actor, or the shyness of the person. You don't know exactly. Again, always working with these three dimensions of the same body. But you know, he goes again, goes with time, and he do the same thing. You know, 20 years after, or not 20, but 18, or shooting was 21. So maybe this was shooting was 2004. So what, 17 years later. You know, always in the same attitude with the extremely famous French actor, not talking almost one single French, you know, one single word of French, but being there and trying to doing the same. And the attitude is the same, and it's a quite extremely, you know, strange case of somebody that has made with me all the films. Even in Death of Louis XIV, he's there in some shots, very hidden, but he's there, and he doesn't know how cinema works.
Is he
No?
interested?
Well, I don't know if he's interested, but he really doesn't, or if he knows it, he forgets it.
Yeah, okay.
So it's extremely, you know, that inevitably, it doesn't matter who, you will, you know, you'll understand some tricks, you will adapt to something, you know, the mechanism, the methodology, or you will, you know, you will take advantage of knowing a little bit about the methodology. I think that he's really, you know, lying on an extreme, pure and innocent, you know, mood that, you know, makes him not understanding even now anything of what's going on. So it's extreme. Well, it's extremely gifted for an actor somehow, because you cannot fake that.
Yeah.
You know?
No,
it doesn't matter how, you know, good actor you are. Fake this. It's impossible to fake this attitude. Because it's impossible. You cannot hide it as deep as being really innocent. You know, so for me, I don't know. I mean, obviously became friend, and these films I made for the art world that are, you know, following or underlying this friendship for me are very important and very moving. People unfortunately cannot watch it because it was, you know, under a form of installation and in very specific places, and they are not very well done, very well known. But yeah, for me, it has a very, you know, personal but also artistic value.
would you consider like a retrospective to?
They did it somehow. For example, this one, that it's 13 hours. They show it as it has no sense. Well, maybe I should work on the edit and try to make it, you know, more coherent as a. But they wanted to show it, for example, in Fit Marseille, this summer, and they did a retrospective, and there was 3 spectators that got the whole thing for 12 hours. Without going out, just to be, you know, and there were 3, and there were a 4th one, but some more people was getting in because it's a 12-hour film.
Yeah.
So, but it's the last chapter of all this friendship, and in fact the guy was already, you know, very ill of cancer, and he died some months later.
Okay.
So it was really the document, but in an extremely crazy fiction. You know, they are lovers. He's working for the film. It's set up. The setup is in Ireland, the beginning of the century, and he's the owner of a mining company, and they have a prostitution house also. They rule, and they are married, and he's also working for the Bank of England, the old one, and they adopt a kid and they send it to Oxford, and you know, it's a crazy story, but you know, in an extremely artificial way. If you check. The film is called Singularity. If you check on the internet, maybe you can find some images.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing, there is some images, you know, and they are really homosexual couple, they are in bed, and there is quite a treacherous moment. And they married too. So, you know, as a gay couple. So, I don't know, it's really, really, you know, from here to marry as a gay couple, you know, there is a huge gap, I mean.
Yeah. I think we might have time for like one more.
Yeah. One question, with choosing to put the film in Catalan, for example, did you think about that?
No.
As
No.
the book is in Spanish?
Yeah, because it was a natural consequence that we were wanted to shoot, and this was the conceptual approach I explained at the beginning of, you know, the book was a point of departure. It was nothing else. Like, you know, my films is like the script. Okay, it's something that you use, it inspires you, but, you know, as I said, we couldn't match the beauty of the Spanish language, that it's, you know, the maximum in Spanish language. So we have to find something alternative or something equivalent, but I don't know. But it's always the same tension with it, and this is very important because it's something I learned a lot with all my films, specifically with the films that with historical ambience, that it's a period, you know, ambience, that it's the strange balance you have to keep between when you deal with known subjects or historical subjects, because you have to be somehow respectful, but at the same time iconoclast, you know, because if you are too respectful, then it becomes, you know, like a UK movie, academic and boring, and why to deal with, you know, with historical subject if you want to, you don't want to give something from you, if you don't have anything to give from you. You know, it has no sense just to make a conventional and academic adaptation. So, but if in the other side you are too iconoclast, why to choose an historical subject? You know, you have to be a little bit respectful with the material you are choosing, or you have to somehow be interested, or, you know, because if not, you write your own story and about you or about whatever, and you don't need to pick up. It's like, you know, when you go to the opera and they do this kind of adaptations, on modern adaptations of opera, that they are so out of the, you know, the context that it becomes disrespectful and absurd. You know, so there is a very, very tricky balance between, you know, being respectful somehow but giving something from your own. And here, you know, this is the point. And with this book, I think I found a, you know, a compromise and a nice solution, because somehow there is the subject of the friendship between the two, that is one of the subjects of the book, maybe not the main or one of the important subjects, but you know, here it looks that it's almost the sole subject, the only one. But you know, it's there. So I mean, and the spirit of what you read in the book, in the spirit, the attitude of the main guy, there is something, you know, that it's close to that spirit. So I think that this sense is respectful, and also it's, well, the costumes and everything, it works quite well. So, and also the harmony of nature, you know, it gives some kind of pantheist approach, you know, this communion, you know, this harmony with nature, that it's still in the book a little bit, despite the, you know, grotesque approach in some scenes of the book. But still, you know, this community and this idea, like he said, it's one of the most famous moments, dialogues of the book, this remembering or this praising of the golden era, you know, where there was only harmony between people, and, you know, and this is a nice moment of the book. So, I don't know, I think it's a strange balance, but it works somehow, and it works especially as an avant-garde film from that time, and important as what it was at that moment, you know, the evolution of cinema with digital technology.
It's a great place to leave off. So we will be back then in theater number 2 for Birdsong, which follows Honor the Nights, including our favorite hair now. So hopefully we'll see you there. Thank you.
Thank you.